What going on, guys? Commander, and welcome to my review of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Now, this is going to be going a different way in the way that this is being reviewed. Now, explain why. Well, you'll see why in a minute. But I do just want to say there's going to be two different reviews on this channel. There's going to be my solo review, and there's going to be another review which I'm going to be doing as of recording this tonight with Retro Geek and Unit 1, because we went to see the movie together. So we're gonna do like a together review of it, and we're each gonna do a separate one as well. I think. I mean, I'm doing a separate one anyway, and then we're gonna do that one as well. But they're both gonna be on the channel. I'm not sure which one's coming first. It depends on when I edit them. But if you've already seen it, then enjoy it. If it's not up so far, go and just have to wait. It won't be too long. Just take a while to edit. So I'm gonna approach this review because of that. A little bit differently, and I'm not going to do like my pros and cons and why I think that, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. Now, I've always, since Disney took over Star Wars, I've always seen the movies the day they came out, with the exception of Solo, but I'm not sure. I think I saw that one a couple of days after, but I can't quite remember. And this movie is no exception. But when you go and see movies the day that they release, especially because it's Star Wars, you get a lot of people asking you whether the movie is good or not. And again, this movie was no exception. So because of that, people don't want spoilers. So I have to word it in a way that means there are no spoilers in this whatsoever. And this is basically what I said to them. It was a good movie, and I really enjoyed it. But it was undeniably flawed, and the flaws in this movie are so big and obvious that you just can't ignore them. Let me tell you what I mean by that. Now, before I just start, I just want to say spoilers. This video is going to contain spoilers. It's not a spoiler-free review, because I'm not going to bother with that, because it's pointless. You have been warned. It is going to contain spoilers. Now, this movie starts with Kylo Ren on a planet known as Exegol. No, it's not. No, Exegol comes later. It starts off with Kylo Ren on a planet with the First Order, and he's hunting for something, and when he finds this said artifact, I can't quite remember what it is. It's a Sith like relic of some description. It takes him to a mysterious temple on Exegol, somewhere in the unknown regions, and where it turns out Palpatine has been hiding out and secretly building a new and massive Sith fleet. Now, we do just want to mention here, Adam Driver and Ian McDiarmid's performances are on point. I cannot describe how well they're both acting. Ian McDiarmid especially. I cannot think of anybody else who could play Palpatine, the Sith Lord Palpatine, as well as Ian McDiarmid can. He is such a legend at doing this. And if they got anybody else, I would not get the same experience of the Emperor as I would do with Ian McDiarmid. He is such a good Palpatine. And even Adam Driver, playing a very conflicted young man in this movie, being pulled and pushed from the light side to the dark side, is so good. He is such a good actor. Anyway, Palpatine then tells Kylo that about what he's been doing on this planet for the last 30+ years. It turns out he's been building a massive fleet of Star Destroyers that have got Death Star lasers on both of them. Well, on the bottom of them. I don't say both of them. There's a massive hundreds and hundreds of these things. Okay, Star Wars, this is the 4th time you've done something like this. There was 3 Death Stars, sorry, in this saga, and now we have Death Star lasers on Star Destroyers. I'm getting sick of this now. Please, not again. I've had enough. I don't want to see this again. Anyway, we then cut to a scene with Finn, Poe, and Chewbacca on the Millennium Falcon, and they're looking for the First Order spy that has information about Kylo's discovery on Exegol. This scene is really cool because it's really fast-paced and action. It's like a chase between the Falcon and TIE fighters, and the action is really clear. It's really fast-paced. It shows a lot of tension. It's really good. It's the first bit of proper action that we've got in this movie so far, and it sets the bar. It sets the bar really quite good, really quite high for the rest of the movie, and it's really, really good. I do really enjoy it. Anyway, elsewhere on the planet, this new planet called Agent Kloss, I think it is. Rey is undergoing training with General Organa. And, well, Leia in other words. General Leia Organa. Now, I just want to say here, just before we go any further, Carrie Fisher, what they did with her and putting her in this movie is really good. It's insane. I looked at it and I thought, That is really, really good. Like, it's really convincing. Now, when they announced a while ago that they were going to do this, I was thinking, how are they going to do that? Like, how is this going to work? But they've done it so well. It's so convincing. Now, for me and many other people, knowing that she died before filming this, we will know that it's not actually her that's playing that role, and we can tell that it's fake. You know, we can look at it and think, yeah, that is fake, and there's something about it that doesn't look quite right. But I think in 20 years' time, 20 years or more time, when our children and maybe their children watch these movies, they will not know that Leia died before filming this movie, and when they come back to this movie, I don't think they'll be able to tell the difference. And that's a complete compliment to the special effects team and JJ for directing it in this way. And I think it's so good that if it wasn't for the fact that we knew that about Carrie Fisher, we wouldn't have known any. We wouldn't have made any different. It would have made any difference anyway. Anyway, Rey keeps making mistakes in her training and says to Leia that she's not ready to wield Luke's lightsaber and gives it back to Leia because she feels that she's not ready to become a proper fully fledged Jedi yet. Now, I do just want to make another point. That Daisy Ridley's acting is spot on as well. It is so good in this movie. Daisy Ridley, Adam Driver and Ian McDiarmid are easily the best parts of this movie for me and make it so much better to watch. So, you know, any scene with them in, just blow it out of the park. I enjoy it so much, especially the last act because it basically is all of them. I love it so much. Anyway, later on we hear that the Falcons return with Finn, Poe and Chewbacca, and they announce that the rumours of Palpatine's survival are indeed true. And that then prompts Rey, Finn, Poe and Chewbacca to make the decision to go and hunt him down and kill him in order... But, sorry, I'm talking a little bit too fast here. So that then prompts Rey, Finn and Poe, as well as Chewbacca, to make the decision to go and hunt Palpatine down and kill him. But in order to get to Exegol, they need to find a Sith relic, much like what Kylo Ren found at the start of the movie. But they decided to go anyway. This was my first major complaint and flaw with this movie, and that is that with this movie, it shows itself very clearly. It's too fast-paced. We're only in about 20 minutes into the movie so far, and we've already seen 4 planets. There's been so much done on those 4 planets in that 20 minutes. It's going too fast, and it doesn't it's so fast that we don't even have the feeling that anything's going on. Like, we're jumping from planet to planet, and this is my issue that I had with Rogue One. Rogue One, we're darting about planets so quickly, we don't even know what's going on. Like, we just like, okay, we'll go here, done there, go there, done there. You know, it feels like a 4-hour movie being comprised into 2.5 hours. That's what it feels like. And there's 2 incidences where this is good. There's 2 parts where I felt like this, and I got that impression that it was going too fast for me. This was one part, but the other part I'll mention later. Anyway, in the hunt for this relic of the Sith, the team find out they need to go and follow the path that Luke was following before he went into exile and they need to follow this path in order to find this relic. And the last known location was a sand planet called Pasan. And after getting on Pasan, they walk through some form of festival and encounter Lando Calrissian. Yeah, okay, he left as soon as they found him. He'll show up a bit later in the movie, but he was discovered just as quickly as he was forgotten. They then get sucked into this underground ruin and find a dagger. This dagger is encrypted with the text to the location of the relic, and C-3PO obviously could read it because he's floated over 6-7 million forms of communication. But because of his programming, he refuses to read it because it's the language of the Sith. Now, when I first heard this, it didn't really make much sense to me, right? But the more I thought about it, I thought, yeah, that actually does make sense. And the reason why, he had his memory wiped at the end of Revenge of the Sith. Just something it's something to do with, like, not to tell Leia about everything about Padme and whatnot and all of this jazz. But this was at a time when the Sith ruled the galaxy, and it might have been a protection measure that Bail Organa had ordered back in Revenge of the Sith to stop C-3PO from being used to read Sith text. Or maybe it was just a base programming anyway, but I think it's something that happened when they wiped C-3PO's memory, because obviously Anakin built C-3PO, and he didn't have any knowledge that that is what he could do. So I think it was something they implemented at the end of Revenge of the Sith when they wiped his memory. So thinking about it now, I put a bit more thought into it. It does make more sense. Anyway, Poe then has this idea that they can get C-3PO's mind read by someone that he knows on a distant planet called Kijimi, something like that. So they basically hack into C-3PO's head and gets him to read out what is actually on the on that dagger. The only issue is Poe isn't very popular on this planet, but they go anyway. And the First Order is of course in hot pursuit, and after Rey goes to face Kylo, who basically tries to run him over in his speeder/fighter, in one of in my opinion, the best scenes that are in this movie. It's so, like, the tension. Now, I really wish they didn't input this into the trailer, because the tension that I felt in that trailer when I saw that Rey was running away from Kylo's speeder, I really wish that tension was in the movie. But because I'd seen this scene already in the trailer, I didn't feel that tension in the movie. And I really thought that tension would have been so much better used in the movie. But even so, I still really enjoyed it. You know, Rey sliced one of Kylo's wings of his TIE fighter off, and he started rolling about and crashing and banging everywhere. But because of this, one thing leads to another, and Chewbacca is then captured. Rey then tries to prevent the craft that's holding Chewbacca from leaving by force pulling it and having a tug of war between her and Ren. She then lets out the fury of Force lightning and destroys the transport, leading her to think that she's killed Chewbacca. Now, I do like this scene quite a lot, but by having her use the Force lightning here, it doesn't make the announcement a bit later on that much more shocking, and it makes it very predictable. If you've seen this movie, you know what I mean, but I won't mention it here. Anyway, after an altercation on Kijimi with someone Poe used to work with, we then find out the C-3PO who has not been hacked. We then find out from C-3PO, who has been hacked by this point, that the relic is located on Endor in the old Death Star ruins. C-3PO's memory has now been wiped again, which leads to some funny comments from him. Now, I thought this was going to get annoying, but because it's not constant, it's every now and again, and because it's still got his normal personalities, all like sarcasticness and like, oh, the odds to survive this is 2003, 31 to 1, or whatever. That, it's quite nice. Like, it's not in your face that he's lost his memory. He's not like, oh, who are you people? You know, all this. The first thing he said when he wakes up is, oh, hello, I am C-3PO, human cyborg relations. How might I serve you? Like a callback to a Phantom Menace when he first meets Padme. And it's that side that is quite, like, it's quite nice, but it's not so in your face that you're thinking, oh god, just somebody shut him up. It's getting too much now. You know, it's only little bits, little and not very often. So it's not so much in your face that it gets annoying. Rey then finds out that Chewbacca is alive by sensing him through the Force, and is being kept captive on Kylo Ren's ship. And then they mount a rescue mission, all while the First Order have invaded the planet looking for the team. On Ren's ship, Finn and Poe look for Chewbacca, and Rey goes to Kylo's quarters where she finds the dagger and all of Chewbacca's equipment, but also the shrine with Vader's helmet on. Kylo and Ren then have a Force connection like they did in The Last Jedi a number of times, and it turns into a massive lightsaber fight. Now, I thought this was really, really good. It's really cool. Not only because the fight was so well acted and so well written, but the fight adds something to the Star Wars mythos and lore. The idea that material and objects can be transferred through the Force is so good. I like this idea, and the idea that new things are going to continue being added into the future to the Star Wars mythos to make it more of like a mythos sort of thing, that like, is this something that the Jedi knew about but they never used because it's sort of like against their rules in the prequel trilogy? Is it something that Yoda knew everything about, that you can actually do this, but, you know, is it something that Yoda knew about but he thought, you know, this is against the Jedi and against the Jedi code and whatnot, so we're not going to use it? You know, it makes you think like how much the Jedi actually knew about, and the Sith for that matter, how much they knew about these powers that are being introduced into the Star Wars mythos. and why they didn't decide to use it, or why we didn't see it in any of the movies. I mean, I know the reason is from a script writing point of view why we didn't see it, because it wasn't a thing back then. But as far as Star Wars lore and mythos is concerned, why we never got to see it and why nobody ever used it. The only slight complaint that I do have with this, and I did feel this when I was watching this scene, is that it's very in your face. It's very just like, it's there. Like, it's not, it's like, it's too much quite a lot. You know, you got beads, you got like Vader's helmet being shattered everywhere, the shrine being shattered, everything is going all over the floor, making a massive mess. So it's okay, it's just like, it's really good, I really enjoy it, but it's a bit much at once as far as I'm concerned. And you know, it's just a little nitpick. That's just me nitpicking it a bit. Anyway, after Ren returns to his ship, he corners Rey and tells her that she is indeed a Palpatine. She is Palpatine's granddaughter. Now, this was the point I was making earlier. This announcement would have been so much better if Rey didn't use Force Lightning earlier, because it ruins the surprise. I would have much preferred it, in my opinion, as having this announcement without showing Rey using Force Lightning before, but instead have her be in denial about it, and when she fights Kylo on the Death Star, that's when she uses it and then proves to her that what she has been told is true. That would have been so much better and so much more powerful than what it is. I'm not saying it's bad, but it was predictable from that last scene that we saw where she used Force Lightning to destroy that transport. What should have happened is she should have had this tug of war with Kylo Ren, and the Force, like they did with the lightsaber in The Last Jedi, with the transport, the Force between them putting either side of the transport just splits the transport in half, and it then blows up in the air. Then have it how I've just explained it, how it should be, where they're on the Death Star, fighter on the Death Star, and she uses it, which then proves to her that what she's been told is true. That would have been so much more powerful than what it is. Her then realizing that she is from a Sith lineage, and that actually scares the hell out of her because she didn't know that from before. Anyway, the team then head to Endor, where they run into a girl known as Janna, who we then learn is a former stormtrooper from the First Order, much like Finn is. Now, I don't know why they didn't explore this more. The idea of having a massive team, because Janna and her team were all stormtroopers that disobeyed all at once, but the idea of having a massive team disobey the First Order, and we don't hear anything more about it, even if it's just a small part of the movie every now and again, like we bring up a reference, it's like a little story's being told that builds up to this massive thing all together. But again, because they want to just tell this story, and they've only got a short time span to do it in, we sort of just have to miss out on it. It's like, okay, we haven't got time to tell this story, just leave it, it doesn't matter, nobody will notice. But we do, because it's so blatantly obvious. I think if that scene wasn't in there, where we learn that Janna and her team are ex-stormtroopers, I wouldn't have paid any more attention to the fact that Finn was actually an ex-stormtrooper at all. But I think by making that point relevant again, it's sort of brought up to the surface why that wasn't explored. And I think that's the same with everybody else. A lot of the critics that I've watched have basically mentioned about how they completely forgot that Finn was actually a stormtrooper, and that this scene reminded them, and that it made them think, why have they not explored it? If this film did not have that bit in it where we got reminded about Finn being an ex-stormtrooper, I don't think we would have been such an issue, because it's sort of just like, okay, it's just a thing that's just been lost. We might get into a bit of expanded universe like content, but it's not anything completely like it's not necessary. We don't remember it, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, then Rey heads to these ruins in the Death Star, and after getting to the Emperor's throne room and going through a door where she finds a dark version of herself, which confirms to her Sith lineage, she then gets the relic. Unknown to her, Kylo Ren is hot on her trail and destroys the relic before she escapes. This then leads to a massive lightsaber fight on the ruins of the Death Star above this massive water waves and whatnot. And in the middle of the fight, Leia, back on Agent Kloss, I think it is, realizes that in order to save her son from the dark side, she must sacrifice herself. She then contacts Ren through the Force, and which then just puts him off guard and distracts him, and Rey then impales him with his lightsaber. I think this is a perfect way to send out Leia. I don't think, they didn't have much to work with, so it wasn't much much in it, but the parts that she was in, it shone brighter than anyone could have expected. Shone brighter than I could have expected anyway. And her death was so perfectly done that it was just an ideal way to send her out. It could have been better. It could have been a lot better. But considering what they had to do at the time, I'm satisfied with it. I'm just satisfied that they, you know, they killed off Leia in such a beautiful way, and it was done to bring Kylo Ren back to the light. It was so good. I really did enjoy it. Anyway, after using the Force to heal and save Kylo Ren, Rey then retreats in Kylo's ship, scared of knowing her lineage and scared of what it could do. She then goes to Act 2 to exile herself and runs into Luke's Force ghost that tells her that both he and Leia knew about Rey's lineage and knew she was a Palpatine, but that Leia still trained her. Being inspired by this, she then finds the relic that Kylo used to get to Exegol, and at the start of the movie, that is still in his ship, so she uses Luke's X-Wing and goes there herself. Now this whole Act 2 thing is really good. I loved it from start to finish. The fact that Leia knew of Rey's lineage but trains it anyway is such good storytelling. It's such good storytelling on JJ's part, and it's such a good way of turning around and saying, look, I know that you are the granddaughter of the most evil person in the galaxy, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to train you, and I'm going to put it on myself to train you in the light side of the Force, so you can then turn around and fight him if what we're being told is true and that he has indeed survived, so you can protect the galaxy when we're all gone. It's so good. And also, Luke lifting his X-Wing out of the water is a direct reference to Empire, and it shows how much he's grown in his power since Empire Strikes Back. Now, I'm not sure if you've noticed this when you're watching the film, and if you have watched the film, then you'll know this. You'll probably pick up on this if you watch it again, if you didn't notice it the first time. Luke's hand position when he was lifting up the X-Wing was the exact same as it was in Empire. The exact same position of his hand. His fingers, his hand, everything. It was exactly the same as it was in Empire. I don't know whether this was a conscious decision or not, but either way, it is really cool. It's a really cool Easter egg. Anyway, back on Endor, Kylo gets a visit from his deceased father, who then makes him throw his lightsaber into the water by choice of turning him back to the light. I don't have much to say about this because it was a nice and touching moment that brought Ben back to the light side, and it was cool just to see a little bit of, like, you know, see Han Solo for a final time in the final episode of the sequel trilogy. And I suppose I kind of see the point of it. You know, it was to bring him back to the light, even though Kylo has sort of been brought back to the light anyway. So, because of Leia's sacrifice, he was sort of halfway there, and I suppose Han Solo sort of finished it off as a direct reference. And because it was a direct reference, you know, I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it. It was a direct reference to The Force Awakens, but his mindset has been pushed more to the light side than the dark side this time. You know, and a lot of people are going to say, and I haven't heard anybody say this myself. I've heard one person say it. I can't remember who it was, but a lot of people are saying that how is Han a Force ghost if he hasn't got the Force? But if you look at him, he isn't blue. He's just a projection of Kylo's mind. And the more I thought about it this way, the more it made sense to me. And the more I sort of understood, okay, that makes sense, and that's okay. As Rey arrives on Exegol, she transmits her location to the Resistance, who sent what ships they have to go and fight Palpatine's fleet. And when Lando shows up, he says he will gather as much Resistance fighters as he can, and he will join them later on. And on Exegol, Palpatine says that she wants Rey to kill him, thus his Force energy will transfer to her and make him live again through Rey and be the leader of this Sith Empire that he's created. Ren then arrives, and we don't know what he arrived on because it doesn't show us, which bugged me because there's no like ship that he could have come into on, because he's now turned back to the light side and his Star Destroyer wasn't actually even at Endor that we saw, so there's no recollection of to why he, like, how he got to Exegol anyway, so I don't know. But he then fights the Knights of Ren with Luke's lightsaber that Rey gives to him through another Force teleport ability, and then she uses Leia's lightsaber that Luke gives to her on Arc 2 to fight Palpatine with. Now, this whole thing with the Knights of Ren is pointless in my opinion. We don't know who they are, we don't know what they're even doing, I don't know if they've even done everything. They've most probably done something in the books which sort of is meant to make up for all of this, but I'm a geek, I don't read books. Anyway, the Resistance then emerges from hyperspace to find out that they are vastly outnumbered, and instead of waiting for reinforcements, they just go for it anyway and try and take as much of this fleet as they possibly can, which is a bit stupid, I'm not gonna lie. When Ben joins Rey and Palpatine finds out that he has been betrayed, he uses the Force to absorb the life force from both Rey and Ben to heal himself, and then sends Kylo flying into a hole under the platform, where then Palpatine uses the Force lightning to attack the Resistance ships. This is something I thought was really, really cool. The action effects at this point is on point, and it is so good. And it's made to seem that the Resistance is basically giving up hope, that they should give up hope because everything is lost. Palpatine is using the Force to destroy as many ships as he possibly can, taking out loads of the Resistance. They've literally got no ships left. Rey then gets Force Ghosts from pretty much every known Jedi you can think of, including Anakin, Mace Windu, Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Yoda, etc. Palpatine sees her, gets it back up, and uses Force Lightning against her, which she uses to block with her lightsaber. This really doesn't make sense to me. Not the lightsabers blocking lightning, because we knew this was a thing, because we've seen it in many other movies before. But it's the fact that Rey did it with no trouble at all. That is something that just bugs me a bit, and it's not that it didn't make it enjoyable, but if the force of the Force lightning pushed her back a bit, it would have made it seem a bit more realistic, like she was struggling with the might of this Sith Lord. You know, we saw Mace Windu do it. He was struggling with Palpatine's Force lightning to keep his guard there. And when Yoda was absorbing the Force lightning in Revenge of the Sith as well, he was struggling because it was so powerful. But with Rey, it's just like she stood there just deflecting it. You can see her hand shaking a little bit, but it's nothing major. It doesn't seem like she's struggling. And if it did see a bit of a struggle there, it would have looked so much better. Rey then uses both Luke and Leia's lightsaber in a cross position to deflect the lightning back at Palpatine, who is so overwhelmed by this lightning that he explodes into Force essence and dies. This was also very good, but I don't see why having two lightsabers makes a difference when deflecting lightning. Star Wars has been very inconsistent with that through its life cycle. Like, what lightsabers can absorb Force lightning, what lightsabers can deflect Force lightning, it doesn't make sense. It's been really inconsistent. So I suppose I'm just gonna have to accept it because, you know, it's not it's not a sequel issue. It's not Disney doing that, because we've seen it very inconsistently in the Clone Wars and in the prequel trilogy. So I'm just going to accept it that that's just what Star Wars is. It's an inconsistent mess. Rey, being overwhelmed, then collapses on the floor and dies, but Ben then climbs back up from the hole that he was thrown down and goes to Rey's side and uses his Force essence to bring Rey back to life and dies in the process. I'm not saying this isn't good and emotional, because it is, but what I would have preferred if Rey had died and Kylo leaves, gets in Luke's X-Wing, and then uses that to take down the rest of the Sith fleet, which would have made the title The Rise of Skywalker. I know Ben's a Solo, but it's still Skywalker lineage, but it would have made that title make so much sense. Like, it would have made it make so much more sense than what it actually goes to later on, which I'll go into a bit later. Anyway, after Palpatine dies, the Resistance is trying desperately to take out this fleet, but without reinforcements, they are all but lost. But suddenly, Lando comes over the comms with an enormous fleet of Resistance ships, who then attack the Star Destroyers. Now, this is my second issue with the pacing. The Sith fleet that we saw at the start just got destroyed like that. Not even a massively long battle to show all of this. Like, all of those ships just got destroyed in that battle. Is that it? You know, what I would have preferred in this scene is that some of the Star Destroyers just retreat from that battle and ask for the Resistance. Sorry. The Star Destroyers retreat, and the task for the Resistance after this movie would be to hunt down those surviving Star Destroyers. That would have been so much better, because then this whole Sith fleet thing would have been built. Otherwise, it would have been built for nothing. You know, I don't know. Maybe they did escape somehow. We just don't know. But I would have loved if we get like a plot twist a bit later on. You know, maybe there's a bit of extra Star Wars media, and we turn around and find out, oh, like let's say 200 of these Star Destroyers managed just to escape. You know, before the resistance reinforcements arrive to cut off their escape. Anyway, at the end of the movie, Rey heads to Tatooine to the last homestead, where she buries Luke and Leia's lightsabers, and someone asks her who she is, and she says she's Rey Skywalker. My main issue with this is that she's not a Skywalker, she's a Palpatine. You know, we've addressed this. You know, we go so far to say, you know, oh, who is Palpatine? Is she Skywalker? Is she Palpatine? Is she Kenobi? You know, whoever. Is she Plagueis? You know, we don't know. But, and then when we get the final reveal, at the end, it's like, okay, we find out she's Palpatine, but she's a Palpatine, but she wants to be a Skywalker. So does that not make any sense? That doesn't make any sense. You know, I know that if she said to that person that she is Rey Palpatine, that may have scared her because they would have most probably known who Palpatine actually was. But she's not a Skywalker. If she didn't want to accept her Sith lineage, I would have preferred just to say that she was Rey and leave it like that, to sort of symbolize that she's sort of still nobody, that she wants to be nobody. But even this end scene was completely pointless and not needed. It would have ended, I would have liked it if it had ended the scene before, where they got back to Asian Kloss and left it there, and had it with the massive reunion, like a homage to the end of Return of the Jedi, where the series ended the last time. I said, you know, I would have loved it if it like ended there. But anyway, that is my review of the Rise of Skywalker. This video's gone off for half an hour, but that's just because I wanted to try out this review style, because I think I need just to go into depth of this movie, because doing like pros and cons and explaining it like that way, you know, it sort of takes the same amount of time, but it's done in a different way, and it's not, you know, I've then got to think of, you know, what I liked, what I didn't like, you know, bit by bit. But this way I can go through the entire movie like as a story and review it in that sense, and review it like that. But anyway, hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy, don't forget to smash that like button, hit that subscribe button for more awesome gaming or review content, I suppose. Do keep an eye on the channel if it's not up already for the review that I'm doing with Unit 1 and Retro Geek on the Rise of Skywalker, because I did go and see the movie with them. That's why we're going to review it together. So keep an eye out for that if it's not up already. If it is up already, go and have a look, see what you think. So anyway, hope you guys have enjoyed, and I shall see you all later. Bye!